Welcome to this session on creating a sales system, so important when it comes to developing and creating an outstanding business. So in this session, we'll be looking at the sales function and why it is that some people are just not comfortable with it. Why it's ultimately an internal process that you must systematize like everything else in your business, and how to do that. We'll look at some key selling strategies as well as some ways to manage the sales process. We're going to take a look at the sales process in a way that will break it down into the nuts and bolts and make it less mysterious and daunting. So even if you are one of those rare individuals to whom selling seems to just come naturally, this topic should shed some light for you on ways to improve your sales skills and those of the rest of your team as well. In today's competitive environment, for any business to thrive, it must have a strong sales push from within. Sales are really the lifeblood of any business, because without sales, your other activities, the operations, human resources, design, production, inventory, the lot become irrelevant. No sales means no business. And yet, a great many business people just don't feel comfortable about selling, either because they think they don't have the skills or because they don't think it's necessary or appropriate for their business. In fact, regardless of whether you're a manufacturer, retailer, in a professional services firm or whatever, you need to be able to sell your product or service in order to survive. You need to develop a sales mind so as not to lose the advantage to other business people in your field who can sell. Selling doesn't have to be hard selling either. One way of getting over the idea that selling might be offensive to customers is to think of it as one of your customer service tools. Think of it this way. If a potential customer calls you or stops by, they've raised their hand to be helped by you. It's your job to do everything you can to meet their need. If you fail to sell to them, they'll walk away with their need unresolved. You've done them a disservice, as they'll now have to spend more time and money finding someone else to solve their problem. And worse yet, that someone else might be a competitor who you know just doesn't offer the products or services that are as good as yours. Many business owners don't focus on their sales function, mainly because they aren't comfortable selling and prefer to concentrate on what they do best. The result is that sales are slow, so they make arrangements for someone outside the business to do the selling for them. Now, this can be dangerous. Without that focus on sales and without keeping your finger on the pulse of your business, your growth will almost certainly suffer. And while relying on an outside salesperson can be useful, if it's the only means of selling, it could mean trouble, because it means you are entirely dependent on that one source to sell for you. Instead of being in a position of power and control, one where that outside sales source is only one of your strategies. So it really is imperative that the sales function gets managed and, well, from within your business. If you don't feel personally comfortable in selling, then it would be preferable to find and hire a good salesperson rather than outsource the work. Hiring a professional salesperson may seem out of range for most smaller businesses. After all, they all command enormous salaries, company car, travel budget, the lot, right? Well, wrong. There are plenty of good salespeople out there who are motivated by the sell itself, by winning over prospects and meeting their needs. For most salespeople, this motivation increases when an extra incentive exists. You can attract good people and get good results by keeping the salary lower and the incentive, usually a percentage of the sales, higher. This lowers your fixed costs and basically means you'll pay them only when sales are being made. Offering a smaller salary with a higher return for results can also help you find the most enthusiastic salespeople. You'll want to concentrate on those candidates who seem genuinely excited about a performance-driven package, those attracted by the ability to increase their income by their own efforts. You know, there's an old human resources tip that suggests that you need to hire more than one salesperson to end up with one who rarely gets results. In reality, statistics show that as few as 1 in 4 will actually be a high performer. The others will find it too tough and leave, or you'll have to ask them to leave because they simply haven't brought in any results. The good news is that you can eliminate that whole issue by creating a sales system. If you're good at selling, or you have a team member who is, document what happens during the sales process, and there you have it, a sales system. Then everyone on your team can use that system to be successful salespeople, and you won't have to hire professionals. Now, you're probably thinking, that's just too simple. But that's not so. Just systematizing the sales process using the best practices of good salespeople is a really effective way of developing your own skills and improving your sales conversion figures. Good salespeople often have what's called unconscious competence. They've reached a time when they no longer remember why they do or say certain things during the sales process. They just automatically do what it takes to get a positive response. It's like driving a car. When you first learned to drive, you carefully went through all of the 17 steps you had to take before you even started the car. You remember the key in the ignition, check the rear view mirror, seatbelt on, start in the correct gear, release the handbrake, check for oncoming traffic. You had to know them in order to pass your driving test, but now, as a more experienced driver, you just do them automatically without thinking, and that's what we refer to as unconscious competence. And it's the same for good salespeople. They become so competent that they forget the steps they're taking and just do what works. So if you ask them to write down their system for success, it would be very difficult for them to break it down for you. And that's why observing and writing down what a successful salesperson does to win over a prospect is the best way to start developing your sales system.